Hi, I'm Blake Tyson, and I'm here today in the UCA Percussion Studio to give you some pointers on this year's All-Region Etude for Snare Drum, the Etude number 23 from Portraits in Rhythm by Anthony Cirone. Okay, that's the first line, and there's a couple of things we need to look at. First of all, the roll subdivision. How are you going to subdivide that roll? Well, I'm going to recommend using 30-second notes. In other words, the underlying rhythm of the first measure would be this. And I will turn that into, so it'll sound like. Now, if that feels too fast for you, you can also subdivide that in triplets, like this. And I'll turn that into. The second thing to look at in the first line is the second measure. The second measure has a syncopated rhythm in it that goes like this. How am I going to keep from playing that incorrectly? I'm going to think about constant motion in my left hand stick. So my left hand stick is really moving in constant motion. Like that. Now the second measure, the second line, we have piano. The thing about the piano playing on snare drum is you've got to do it with your stick height and your stick placement. It's not enough just to go to the edge if you're still playing 4 inches off the head. What you need to do is go to the edge and also get your sticks way down. So I'm going to keep my sticks maybe a centimeter or so off the head and be close to the edge. And it's hard to do this, and when you're playing softly, it's really easy for the sticks to creep up on you. So one of the things I do is I use my music stand to keep me honest when I'm practicing. If I'm going to practice playing softly, I'll put the music stand over the snare drum like this, and then I have to play underneath it. And if I go too high with my sticks, my music stand lets me know. Anything you can do to practice playing softly, and to get in the habit of when you play softly, to keep your sticks low. And I'm also going to make sure that those dotted rhythms, the dotted 16th to 32nd, don't sound like the triplets I just played before. I don't want them to sound like. I want them to sound like. Now with the crescendo, what I'm going to do is use a little trick to help give more intensity to the crescendo. The first half of the quarter note crescendo, I'm going to subdivide in a triplet. The second half of the quarter note crescendo, the second eighth note of that crescendo, I'm going to subdivide in 30 seconds. So the subdivision will be da 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 da. And by doing that, I give more intensity to the end of the crescendo, more intensity to that final push in the crescendo into the forte. So the second line will sound like this. The other thing you can do is do a perfectly even 7-note grouping, a septuplet, if you want. I really like the triplet to 32nd note because of the extra intensity it gives me at the end of the crescendo. Okay, third line, we have this triplet rhythm again, and that's forte, and then for the first time we have fortissimo. So you want to play loudly, but you want to think about a full, round, open tone when you play it. The next thing we have is the pianissimo passage in the second measure of line 5. And with the pianissimo passage, we have to get really, really low, really close to the head with our sticks. And there's 2 stickings we can use here. You can use all 16th notes in your right hand, like this. We'll go. And you put the other notes in, it sounds like this. Or we can alternate Now, the first measure of line 6, there's a rhythm there that I think it looks trickier than it is. But just in case you're having a hard time with that, let me break that down for you. There's a note on the and of each beat. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So if you just repeat this measure, you definitely have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. And then there's also a beat on the E of each measure. 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2. Okay, so that's really consistent actually. 1 E and a 2. The trick is knowing where to put the extra 32nd note on each beat. So let's put that all in context now, with the starting with the pianissimo. And then we come right out of that into the mezzo forte. With the mezzo forte, we have some flams. These flams don't need to be alternated. It's not like you would do in a rudimental solo or playing flams as a rudiment. For consistency's sake, I would not alternate these flams. I would play them all on the right hand for me, but if you want to play them all on the left hand, but I would keep them all consistently on one hand or the other. That brings us now to the second measure of line 7, which is the return of the A section of the etude. For this section, you can use all the same techniques that we've talked about for the opening section. After that, you have the coda, which has something we haven't seen in this etude before, which is a decrescendo quarter note roll. For this decrescendo roll, I'm going to subdivide 32nd notes. It sounds good as you get softer, and it sets you up to play the 32nd notes in the following measure at piano. For those 32nd notes, I'm going to use a right hand lead on all the 16th notes. And then I'm going to put the other notes in. Then I'm going to add the crescendo. Then this last line, it's very easy to rush, especially as the notes get further and further apart. So make sure you're subdividing very carefully on this last line. Then the very last measure is a roll which has a flam on it. Notice that the flam is accented, but the principal note isn't. And this is like the end of a symphony where you might hear the final chord go ba-bum. And so I'm going to approach playing this flam the same way. I'm going to give it enough separation so that I can hear there's a separate note there, and then create the illusion of a long sustained sound with the roll. Well, that's it for this session. But if you have any other questions about the etude, please feel free to email me at blake@blaketyson.com or at btyson@uca.edu. Either address is fine, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, have fun practicing, and good luck on your audition.